Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 53 of the HooperCast. I'm Mr. Hooper, and... well, shit. Well, and that's how we're going to start the show today. Hello, Dustin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm delicious. Michael Grayson,
that's good.
How are you now that you're back on the podcast after a hiatus?
You know, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here, guys.
It's amazing having you back. This episode of the podcast, at least on my end, is brought to you by Red Bridge Gluten-Free Sorghum Beer.
Wow.
Very good.
That sounds fancy.
I didn't seek it out, but I was just looking. I was like, does that say gluten-free beer?
Yeah, I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, I'm going to get this. I'm curious. And it's not bad. It's not bad.
Gluten-free, man.
Yeah, so there's just like no wheat or barley, but it's not bad. I thought it would taste really terrible.
It doesn't taste really terrible?
After I bought it, I thought it would taste really terrible, but so far it's pretty solid.
All right.
Nice.
So I'm not disappointed so far. What are you drinking, Michael?
Today's episode is brought to you by Budweiser, King of Beers. Yeah, it comes in a 12-pack for $12. I'm doing all right for myself over here, man.
Nice.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I have a smoothie.
You have a smoothie.
It has fruits.
Fruits.
Yep. So there you go.
I've also got water.
Mine has a shot of energy for good.
Grass.
I know, for real. Gotta be healthy.
Yeah.
Be happy, be healthy.
Well, anyway.
Also Cheerios.
I had some mixed nuts earlier.
Mixed
Good for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Were you at a bar?
No, I went to a grocery store and got one. All right. Well, anyway, enough about our health. So,
For your health.
yes, today, I guess today I just figured we'd catch up on some stuff we've been watching, and that you've been watching, Michael Grayson. You told me a few things a few TV shows you've been checking out lately. So, what have you seen?
All right. Well, first thing, Melissa and I, the lady and I, we've been watching Workaholics. Now, guys, I'm telling you, that is some brilliant writing there.
Is it?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. But, you got to keep in mind, it comes on at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night. So at this point on a Wednesday night, you've already had, a couple drinks. The girl's already had a couple glasses of wine. You're sitting there, you're watching these guys do the most ridiculous things. This week, the guys dressed up as clowns. And they just took over the city.
Awesome.
Do you guys watch Workaholics? Have you seen any of it? Have you seen any?
I've seen none of it.
None of it.
None of it.
I'm telling you, man, it's something interesting to watch.
Awesome.
It sure is. After Workaholics comes on, there's a new show called Broad City.
Oh, okay.
Now, Amy Poehler, I think that's how you say her last name.
Yeah.
Leslie Knope from Parks and Recs is the executive producer on this show.
Yeah, I heard about this.
I'm telling you, it is bad. It is so funny. It's bad in a good way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I'm just telling you. What was it they did the other day? I can't even tell you. It's just so outlandish and far-fetched. Just the thing.
Yeah.
It's these two young ladies that live in New York City, and it is just hysterical. All the supporting characters in their story. Just, they got this roommate. She has a girl as a roommate, but the girl is never there. But there's always this fat, useless, bearded boyfriend. Always sitting in the house, half naked, eating Cheetos. It's just so real. It's
awesome.
Absolutely hysterical. So those are two things that are definitely worth a watch on Comedy Central on Wednesday night. Other than that,
awesome.
Sunday night that's been reserved for The Walking Dead, which
yes,
we've had a really good time catching up on that. we're real impressed with season 4 so far. There have been a couple of throwaway episodes, just like every season, but for the most part, we're enjoying it.
Where are you guys at now? Are you caught up?
Yeah, we're
completely?
caught up.
Okay, cool.
So I still can't believe what they did to Herschel.
I know,
but it's one of those things, man.
It is. I got to tell you, after the big confrontation, I figured they went on hiatus. For those of you who don't know, they go on hiatus, and they come back with the second half of the season. And I just figured, like, okay, I don't know where they're going to go now. They're all kind of split up. It's going to be kind of weird. But I've really enjoyed the second half, probably more than the first half so far. Just kind of getting these character-driven episodes.
Absolutely.
Where we get to see a little bit of, like, Rick deal with Carl and just kind of the father-son dynamic there, in this new, world. And a little bit with Michonne and just kind of get to know the characters a little bit. And...
you raise a good point. I've heard so many mixed reviews about people's reactions to Carl's character development. Some people think that, what he's doing is really great. He's stepping up, trying to be a man. And the other people think, he's just disrespecting his father and being a whiny little boy. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I think, this may sound strange, but I think Carl is one of the more interesting characters on the show. And the reason I think that is because there's such potential with his character to really explore how this world affects children. I mean, we know sort of how it would affect adults, but how you'd go through puberty and how you would, be this, 13-year-old kid in this world is really like an interesting concept to me. But yeah, it's a really like interesting. I lost my train of thought. Thanks, Hooper.
Well, it's a good point you brought up about, Carl going through puberty and Carl trying to figure out what it is he's doing. I mean, you look at last week's episode when the whole episode was about Beth wanting to act like a grown woman because all she wanted was to get that drink.
Right.
I think you raised a good point with that.
Yeah, one of the things that I've always kind of thought the show should do more of is, these character-driven pieces where we see how they have changed and how this world affects the normal aspects of life. So to see, Beth kind of say, like, when Daryl says, why do you want to know what I did before the turn? And Beth is like, well, that's what people do. They talk about, life before to feel normal. And I feel like that's a really valid point and something that the show doesn't do enough of, but I'm really glad that they're doing it now. And I just think this is a nice change of pace, and it's great because as a fan, you really don't know where it's going to go. I mean, next week could be anything. We could be looking at any character doing anything, and I think that's really, really cool place to be.
I'm excited to see where it goes. I do have to tell you, I'm still thrilled that Lori is dead.
Me too. Amen. Thank you. Oh,
that's great.
Oh, I know.
People just really didn't like her, did they?
No
one liked her.
Why is it really? I mean, like, it could have been. It wasn't the whole Shane thing, was it?
I'm sure that was part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then she was always telling Rick what to do, and Rick was just always like, "I'm trying to help everyone survive," and then she would just nag and nag and
I know,
nag.
for real.
Lori, I'm trying my best to get everyone out here alive. Carl is gonna die if we don't get help.
Genius.
That's my best
awesome.
one.
Oh, man.
I had a person tell me one time that I sounded like Rick, like I have the same accent, and I didn't know whether to take that as a compliment because it's a fake accent that he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a British guy, and I'm like, so I sound like a fake Southerner, like so.
Carl,
get in the house, Coral.
Oh man.
Oh my God.
Genius.
Michael, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You said you've also been watching MasterChef Junior.
Oh my God, yes, I've been watching MasterChef Junior. It's over now, but I watched the whole season. It was very, very impressive. As someone who absolutely loves to cook and loves to spend time in the kitchen, I was very impressed with what these 6 through 12-year-olds were putting out. They were using techniques that, your average... I'm a 24-year-old male. Like, I thought I knew how to, cook up some cool stuff in the kitchen. And I'm looking at these 6-year-olds, and they are making some really impressive dishes.
That's awesome.
If you haven't checked out MasterChef Junior, that's definitely worth a watch. You see a whole different side of Gordon Ramsay. Most of the time, when you see Gordon Ramsay, he's shouting and cursing and just, saying terrible things. But when he is around children, man, he is a totally different individual. And it was really heartwarming to see a different side of such a famous chef.
Awesome. That's really cool. And is that on Hulu?
I'm going to be honest. We watched it on the Comcast on demand.
Okay. I got you.
So it's definitely worth a watch. It was very impressive.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that once or twice, at work, and it's just like you said, Michael. Like I'm expecting like some kid like did some souffle that turned out terribly, and I thought Gordon Ramsay was going to go, Brian, this souffle is fucking awful.
I know.
And just like rip into him, but he actually is like constructive with them.
I know. It's a
weird.
Totally different side of him.
It was off-putting.
Yeah, but
that's a pun, by the way. I didn't realize that. Pudding, everybody. Pudding.
Yeah.
It was just this approachable side of Gordon Ramsay that I don't think anybody had ever witnessed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you see Simon Cowell on a talk show and he's not just a mean son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I don't know.
Well,
he kind of always is,
He's not
maybe,
yeah.
Maybe they're the same person in my head. That might be it.
Yeah. You just put on a V-neck sweater and you become, or a V-neck T-shirt and you become Simon Cowell.
Basically an undershirt.
Yeah, pretty much.
Lately, like he used to wear like a black shirt all the time, and now he just wears like an undershirt. He's just like, why buy shirts when I can just wear undershirts?
Yeah, he just went to Target and got a pack of Hanes.
Yeah,
a 5-pack with Michael Jordan on the cover of it.
There you go.
This is not in the Google Doc, but I was retracing my steps, and I realized I had watched this week. I hadn't watched really any TV. I did watch another episode of True Detective. And it continues to just be fantastic.
Now you gotta tell me about True Detective. I've read people's Facebook statuses and stuff about it, but I haven't seen any advertising for it. I watched an episode where South Park made fun of it, but to that point, when they called it investigative murder porn, I don't know too much about it. So what is it?
Well, I'm with you. I had not really seen any ads for it. I saw like one trailer on Facebook or something. Like, I think maybe a lot of it was just online. But it's a mini series. I've come to find out it's not going to be like a continuous, serialized drama. It's like 8 episodes and done. And it's got it's got Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, and they are two detectives.
I love both of those guys.
Yeah, they're both great, and it's basically just I'm on the 6th episode, so I guess I got 2 left. So I guess maybe does it end on Sunday? I need to really catch up because you're at that point when you're this far through the show, but you're not like caught up, and someone spoils it. Like the context possibly.
What network is it on?
HBO.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like if someone spoiled the end of Breaking Bad, like what happens to like a tertiary character or something. You won't know.
Don't spoil it for me.
No, I'm just saying. Like if you had seen like only season 1, you wouldn't maybe know a couple of the characters. But if you're on if you just finished season 4, it's like, oh, well, I know who that guy is, and
Right.
My point is, it's basically just it's a show. They're detectives, and they've investigated like this like weird like satanistic kind of murder or something, and then a couple other related murders, and it's kind of supposed to span a couple of decades. And there's I don't really know how else to describe it because without giving you plot twist details and stuff. But it's really good. It's really well shot. It's incredibly well acted, particularly by Matthew McConaughey, who is just obviously. I mean, you saw the Oscars. He's just on fire right now. He's in his prime.
Can I change the subject real quick to Matthew McConaughey?
Yes.
Sure. Did you fellas see a picture Matthew McConaughey did, a little black comedy called Killer Joe?
Yes.
No, I didn't see that.
That is definitely worth a watch. What did you think?
It was very interesting. Like again, like his performance is just the main strength of it. Particularly that one that I know you know what I'm talking about, with the chicken wing, and and that was incredibly disturbing and it was.
Dustin, you've got to red box it or go pick it up at Walmart or something.
Gotcha.
Basically, between movies like that and Mud, and what's wrong with my throat, and like Lincoln Lawyer and stuff like that, he's just been putting out consistently great performance after consistently great performance for 6+ straight films, and now True Detective.
Mud was awesome.
And
Mud was awesome.
And he's great, like he's been great. So I mean, True Detective's worth it just for him, and his character's like he's just like this completely nihilistic, completely lacks all. He's just like basically just like a passive sociopath, just like. Yeah, he's the kind of guy who would tell you, like, why are you eating that hot dog? You're just going to shit it out later, and it's going to fertilize, like, why bother even picking, good food to eat? It doesn't matter. Like, just someone where you're just like, okay, well, don't want to have a beer with you. Remind me not to bring you to Sonic with me next time we're hungry.
You know who I do want to have a beer with is Matthew McConaughey from Dazed and Confused. That's the
There
Matthew McConaughey I want to hang out with.
It's just crazy to see him go from that guy, just kind of like, essentially, like, not like a malicious joke, but kind of just like it's Matthew McConaughey, Bongos guy, all right, and now he's an Academy Award winning actor,
doing very well for himself.
Yes, incredible, so. Yeah, so True Detective is just another testament to his talent, and so of course, if you like good acting, watch that show.
You sold me, dude. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, it's really good. All right, well, Dustin, what have you been watching?
Honestly, I think we recorded a week ago, Hooper.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a whole lot that's really worth mentioning, but I will say that there are two shows that started back this week in the second season that I checked out, and they're sort of in the same vein because they're both based on movies that are based on books.
Okay.
So the first is Bates Motel. It's in its second season. Obviously, this is like the updated version of Psycho. And then we also have Hannibal, which is on NBC, and is obviously the story of Hannibal Lecter. And did you guys ever watch any of season 1 for either of these shows?
No.
Okay. Well, basically, Bates Motel is sort of like a character-driven thing where it's all about how Norman Bates became twisted and whatever, and into the character that we see in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which is probably the best horror movie ever made, in my opinion. And so anyway, but it's a good show, and the first season's really entertaining. But to me, this first episode back really was a kind of a low point because I feel like they made this mistake of escalating his arc too quickly, maybe because they didn't know that they'd have another season. And so now they've got to try to drag it back out. And it's just sort of like a weird, from a storytelling perspective, to do that to a character is really strange. And similarly, they've done the same thing with Hannibal, in that throughout the first season of Hannibal, the show is actually based on or centered around Will Graham, and played by Hugh Dancy, and played by Edward Norton, I think, back in Red Dragon. And so anyway, Will Graham, they kind of tell this story, and Will Graham kind of loses his mind throughout the first season and becomes sort of insane. And you kind of, like, now it's like, well, where do you go with that character, though? And so it's sort of the same thing in that they told this full arc in the first season. So now where do you go from here? What's the defining arc from here on out? It's sort of like if Breaking Bad had sort of done a complete arc in its first season, there's really nowhere else to go. And so it's just kind of like both of those shows, long way of saying both of those shows are kind of turning me off right now because I'm not sure where they're going or what they're doing. And
it's just throwaway episode after throwaway episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's and the performances are great. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal Lecter is great, and you have Vera Farmiga as Norman Bates' mother.
Okay.
And these are great performances, but they're just, it's just...
It's pointless. It's pointless.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like, okay, here's another episode just to give you something to watch.
Big picture of the story.
Exactly. And I hate to say that Breaking Bad kind of ruined me on television. and I always compare everything to Breaking Bad. But it's kind of true, right? Like Breaking Bad told a story over its entire series, and without spoiling anything for you, Michael, the story ends. I mean, there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, and that's it. And so it's sort of like each episode that you're watching is another chapter in the book. Whereas something like Bates Motel or Hannibal is kind of like, okay, but what does this have to do with the next chapter? And so, and I feel like a lot of shows like this kind of fall into that trap. Like if you're talking about something like, Law and Order, CSI, Castle, Almost Human, whatever it is, it's just kind of like, it's, no, it's true.
I had to throw that one out there.
But it's true. But they all do this thing where, okay, here's the story for this week, but what's neglected is how that ties into a larger story.
Correct.
And that kind of storytelling was great when television was new. That kind of storytelling was great 10 years ago. But now it's just got to be at a different level. I mean, in a world post The Wire and Sopranos and Shield and Breaking Bad, you just have to tell something better. And
I'm totally
so anyway,
there.
there's my television rant for the day.
Valid.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, anything to add to that, Michael?
No, I agree with all of it. I'm tired of watching trash television.
Yeah.
I am impressed though because Melissa and I will flip through channel after channel. But you know what's always on?
What?
America's Home Videos. America's funniest home videos. They still play that from the 90s. They're still going hard. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is like watching YouTube before YouTube was invented.
Yep.
And I'm impressed.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And you have like an annoying host between each video.
Oh, I know. That guy's terrible.
He's awful.
Tom Bergeron?
Yeah.
See, he's so terrible I didn't even know his name.
See, my grandparents watch that, and they don't have the internet, so I feel like that's the audience.
No.
Is the people that don't have internet connection.
No.
And then they go to their friends and say, "Did you see that episode of Funnies last night?" And it's like, what?
See, I
Who
feel
does
like
this?
I feel like the show Tosh.0 kind of tries to do what America's Funniest Home Videos does, but the problem is that Tosh is just a total dick.
He is.
He's not even funny. He's just a dick.
It's just off-putting.
I know. It's like you try to have a little bit of faith in humanity, but you can't do it because he is so pessimistic.
That's true.
Yeah. He's got those like weird doll's eyes too, like those shark eyes.
He does, man.
I think about Tosh, and then I think about Dane Cook, and I'm like, how do either one of these people have a career?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't heard from Dane Cook in a while. Maybe he doesn't anymore.
Yeah, I had not heard from Dane Cook, but I was so done with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody's done with Dane Cook.
Yeah, Dane Cook kind of helped me get through high school, kind of, and then I was like, wait a minute, I don't need him.
What am I doing?
Wait a minute, all these jokes were stolen from Bill Cosby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, at least Bill Cosby wore a sweater.
I know, for real.
They basically, who was talking about it? Someone was talking about how, some other comedian was talking about how Dane Cook, essentially, like, all he really had to do, like, his stand-up is, like, 90% execution. Like, all he had to do was, like, they said, all he does is, like, he'll tell the joke, but then he'll just make it so that when he says something like this, you'll laugh.
With an upward
And it's
inflection.
like they said it's just like Pavlov's dog. Like he just associated that inflection with people laughing, and it's worked.
Yeah,
And I was like,
that's
true.
true.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
we could call him
movie questions.
smart, but not funny. Oh yes, I would like to know, Michael Grayson, you saw an Oscar-nominated film, an Oscar-winning film, right?
Did I? I didn't watch the Oscars. I don't know what won.
Okay, well, Gravity won for something. So
Well,
would you like to?
I know Gravity. I'm pretty sure Gravity won a Golden Reel from the Motion Picture Sound Editors Award for having best sound effects editing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what they got. Don't quote me on that. But I watched the film. Sandra Bullock was okay. George Clooney was amazing. The sound design was to die for.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. You look at what Christopher Nolan did with Inception and how they built a big hallway. They built that big room and they kind of did their whole zero gravity thing, and then Gravity comes out and they do their zero gravity thing, and it is really impressive.
Yeah.
Gravity won for visual effects. That's one of the awards it got. So
It won 7 awards, in fact.
Really?
I guess it did.
Read it
Yeah.
out to
It did.
us.
Okay.
Cinematography, directing, film editing, best achievement in music for the original score, sound editing, sound mixing, visual effects.
Bam! Yeah, dude. I mean,
Basically,
it was
all
a good
technical
piece of
awards.
work. Yeah, it was a great piece. It was a filmmaker's film.
And then
It was, yeah.
Alfonso Cuarón got Best Director as well.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Now,
Although
did you mention-
I gotta say, I'm not convinced that cinematography went to the right people.
who do you think?
Who are the nominees?
That's a good question. Hold on, let me pull that up before I put my foot in my mouth. Okay, so it was The Grandmaster, Gravity, Inside, Llewyn Davis, Nebraska, and Prisoners.
Okay.
Gravity was great, but I believe most of it was animated. Like,
Yeah.
they lit for the actors in the studio on green screen, but how much real, like, traditional kind of cinematography was there in the film?
I mean, you didn't hear it? They had base camp set up on the International Space Station with their big old Panavision cameras up there in outer space.
There you go.
Sandra
That'd be awesome,
Bullock.
actually.
Sandra
Yeah.
Bullock. She's a serious woman.
Yeah.
That'd be insane if they'd actually filmed it in space.
That would have been wild.
That would be cool, man.
I mean, because in there, like, I'm surprised there's not a category. There's 2 categories that I think we've talked about on the podcast, Dustin, that deserve to be part of the Oscars. One of them is Best Blockbuster. I think you and I were talking about that. Was that you and I, or was that just my head?
I don't remember that, but
Okay.
we could have at some point.
We'll
yeah.
go with it.
Sure.
Okay. I feel stupid now. The other one that I'm referring to is I feel like there should be Best Stunt Coordinating.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, the thing is, it can't apply across the board to every film. Like, you don't do...
Right.
Nebraska is not going to win for Best Stunt Coordinator. But at the same time, it's like, well, maybe you should have more stunts in your movie. Otherwise, maybe you'd be eligible for it. Maybe there should be some car chases in Nebraska.
Right.
Oh, man.
So, if you want
The
to get
King's
those
Speech
awards...
with car chases.
The King's Speech with car chases.
Or he just does one of his speeches, like, while walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean... Anyway.
I want to see the Michael Bay version of the King's Speech.
Oh,
I want to see the Michael Bay version of every movie.
Honestly,
Including-
I'd rather not see.
Can you imagine seeing Gravity directed by Michael Bay?
That would be
Oh,
crazy.
man.
How, do you know that he'd be doing stuff with women's body parts and zero gravity?
Oh, yeah.
This is true.
Oh, he would.
He would. He would. And he'd have, like,
very
frat
true.
parties in space. And, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Insane.
Stuff, yeah.
Duh.
Well, I intend to see Gravity.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I have not seen it.
Okay, Sandra Bullock does a lot of screaming.
Yeah.
A lot.
A lot.
Prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And a lot of, like, frantic noises.
I like those noises. I like the screams.
That's creepy.
Yeah. You're creeping me out now.
She breathes
You owe me a
heavily.
scream.
All right,
What?
who saw Saving Mr. Banks? Did you guys already talk about this one?
We have, but I didn't see it. But
have?
Dustin, didn't you see it?
No, I haven't seen it either.
Oh, John saw it. Okay.
John saw it, yeah.
Okay.
Was it good? What'd you think?
It wasn't the movie I thought I was going to go see.
Really?
Yeah, like I thought I was going to go see like a happy Mary Poppins, making of Mary Poppins picture. And it
Sure.
was this really depressing story of P.L. Travers' life.
Really?
But I did get to see Tom Hanks like parade up and down Disneyland as Walt
Yeah.
Disney, and that was just beautiful.
Right. Man, Tom Hanks is awesome. Which, Hooper saw something with Tom Hanks recently.
Oh, I did. Yeah, so I watched Captain Phillips today.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I had some time today, so I went over to Redbox and grabbed a copy of Captain Phillips, and it was good. I really for people who don't know, I mean, obviously the listeners would probably know, but Captain Phillips is based on a true story, and it's basically about the captain of this freighter. And in 2009, in April 2009, they got hijacked or got boarded by Somali pirates. And then after, I'll spoil the movie because this happened in real life, and most people know how it ends. After like a couple days, the Navy SEALs killed the pirates. So, and Captain Phillips lives. So, but it was a really cool story even before they made the movie out of it. It was just one of those, just crazy, like, apparently it was like the first like U.S. freighter to be boarded by pirates in like 200 years or something. So like, yeah, it was kind of like a big deal. And it's just another example of, Navy SEALs basically coming in and just shooting people up and getting shit done,
Right, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Just getting people out of tough situations.
Yeah.
So, it was really good. Directed by Paul Greengrass. He's always been good at shooting action. Paul Greengrass also directed another true story movie, United 93, which I've repeatedly said I'm a big fan of. Especially with unknown actors, in those movies.
Yeah.
Just the way he shoots, it's I say uncinematic in a good way. Like, it doesn't play like there's a camera crew on a dolly shooting stuff. It just plays like you're a dude watching these heart-pumping events happen before you.
Sure.
And so he's just really good at keeping you engaged and keeping tension up. And just, it takes them, like, they try to board the ship like 3 times, and every single time we're like, because I always credit filmmakers who take a story where how it ends. So that it's not like Captain Phillips turns on the hoses and they go away. Like, they're going to get aboard the ship. You've seen it in the trailer. And just when you can take a story where you know the outcome and make it still interesting, that gets points for me.
Yeah.
And
the movie's nothing if it's not tense.
Yeah. I mean, and you have to do, especially if the outcome is known by the general public, you have to make it tense, because otherwise it's not like you're counting on the ending to be a big surprise.
Exactly.
It just has to be the joy of watching the film has to come from all the tension and the performances. And Tom Hanks is really good, especially at the end. After they get him out. Which that scene, Dustin, I don't know if you know this, but with him and like the medical examiner, I kind of assumed this while I was watching it, but she was like a real,
She was real, yeah.
She was real, and that whole thing was improvised. They just told her, go through your
Do
normal,
what you do.
checkup, and he'll act. Yeah, and it was great. Like, I almost cried at the end. Like, it was great.
Dude, I got choked up too. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the thing is, like, when you go into it, you're wondering, at least for me, I was thinking, okay, this could very easily become Die Hard. You know, it's just a dude, like, sneaking through a boat, taking out pirates. But at the same time, you know, it just takes the movie in a completely different direction than anything that's in your head. And then, you know, continually, like, stacks the cards against him. You know what I mean? It's just like a wave after wave after wave of you know, just these terrible things that are happening to this guy. Yeah. And just when you think, like, okay, that's it, you know, it's about to end, it's like, oh, no, here's another thing. Yeah. And it's just awesome to kind of watch it unfold. And I think you're right. The ending scene at with the medical examiner is really moving because, you know, like I said, very easily the movie could have been Die Hard, and it could have been, okay, after everything's over, he just kind of like shrugs it off and moves on like John McClane. Yeah. But instead they allow the you know, this character to be human and to break down and to, you know, and just to be believable in an action movie. And I think that's kind of strangely kind of daring these days to do something like that. And, you know, especially for Tom Hanks, who, I mean, we know he's a great actor. You know, how do you balance the heroism of the character with his humanity? And I think Tom Hanks did it, you know, as good as it could be done. Yeah. And I think that's a hard note for people to hit because you want your character to be a hero, but, you know, how do you make them relatable? And I mean, that's what I love about someone like Indiana Jones, who can take a punch. You know, it's, I don't know, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But anyway, it's human. Humans.
Well, yeah, it was good. So I saw that. I saw, my wife and I did a double feature the other night. So we watched The Conjuring.
Let's talk about The Conjuring.
Have you seen this, Michael?
Oh, and do I have some opinions?
Well, I'd like to. Oh, I'll give you like a brief review. But I'd like to know. I'm more interested in your opinions than my own review of this movie. It was as far as like scare. I'm not like a big horror movie fan, and horror movies run a big spectrum. They run from like kind of like comedy horrors and like, you know, sort of like sadistic, like, you know, crazy shock horror to stories like The Conjuring, which are not. They're not like. They're basically stories of like demonic activity, which I find more interesting just because they feel. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Not more grounded, because that's really a matter of perspective, but they just feel. They feel.
Well, they're larger.
They're larger, and they feel like. I don't know. What am I trying to say? Just like when the figure like walks out of the pond and the creature from the Black Lagoon walks in your house and just starts eating your family, I'm just like, all right, well, you can film that kind of scary, but that doesn't really scare me. Sure. I don't know. What do you think, Michael?
I didn't think it was scary.
Yeah, I didn't think it was like too terribly like actually scary.
I was waiting around for stuff to jump out at me.
Yeah.
And you know, so on and so forth. I just, you know, especially when, like, at one point, they're like, we're going to get the kids and we're going to go. And they were like, nope. they were like, well, that won't do any good. And they were like, they were like salesmen. You know what I mean? They were like, no, he should stay here. You know, he shouldn't even try to run. It pissed me off. It upset me.
I'm much more into the, like, I guess what scared me is the prospect of like being tormented by demons more than this movie itself with that context. Like, maybe that's what I think I was prepared to be a lot more freaked out than I was. Yeah. With it. But that being said,
I heard it was really scary.
I heard that too. I heard it was like super scary, but
Melissa and I went and saw it in theaters, and then we've watched it on disc a couple of times, and I don't get it, man. The advertising and the trailers and the media that they had for it was so phenomenal, and I thought it was going to be such a good picture, but I was real disappointed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, hey, that's just one man's opinion.
Sure.
Well, this next movie we got it because we were expecting to be super scared by it, so we wanted like a comedy to kind of liven it up, because I'm a parent now, so I get a terrible sleep as it is. I don't need to be awake all night thinking about The Conjuring. Turns out it wouldn't have been an issue anyways, but nevertheless, we watched The Internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson.
Oh my goodness!
I thought you said you rented a
comedy,
not another torturous misadventure.
It was. And at this point, I'm like 2 glasses of wine deep, and I'm just another 2 hours more exhausted. So, I don't really have a great version of how entertaining this movie is. I like watching Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson interact. That was better than
that makes one of us. That makes one of us.
I don't know. Maybe watching movies with Mrs. Hooper skews my judgment, I guess, because I walked away from it going, that was enjoyable, but maybe I just wanted to go to bed. So who knows? But I mean, I don't know. I guess I expected it to be super awful, and it wasn't super awful. It was just kind of generic. It's skippable, nothing quotable, no one-liners.
It's the one where they work at Google, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, man. I think I'd rather watch Jaden Smith rehearse scenes from his next upcoming movie than rewatch The Internship. And Jaden Smith is terrible.
This is true.
I think that Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn have some really beautiful chemistry together. I think that when you put the two of them together, they're better than 10 others. And I think that movie had its moments, but at the same time, I don't know who they were trying to appeal to.
Right.
Was
because
that
the movie
made for me, or was that movie made for 16-year-olds? I just don't know.
It's one of those movies where you set yourself up for a certain kind of disconnect because the premise of the movie is, they're salesmen, and then their company basically goes under, and so now they find them. It's relatable for older people, I guess, today, because people who have been in the same line of work for 20, 25 years, and all of a sudden they're thrown out and forced to get good jobs and compete with younger people who are more.
I don't know, the whole Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson. Oh well, we gotta learn how to computer kind of thing.
Right, exactly. That's
fail.
where I expected if they wanted to be more believable, this would have been this would have been another Morgan Freeman, Jack Nicholson buddy flick, But so I understand that thing they were trying to do, but then it's when you make the whole movie we don't understand memes or texting or just certain things, but then through grit and our salesmanship, we can actually bridge the gap and be good enough for Google, more than any of these other young, snappy, witty interns.
Yeah.
So
it had its moments. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from it.
Yeah, it was harmless, but I didn't. I got about what I expected, just to sort of be passively entertained for a couple hours, and I'm glad I got it at Redbox and didn't go see it. Go see it in theaters.
Did you drop your baby? I'm kidding.
Oh God, I did. No, I did not.
I'm kidding.
What's crazy is stuff like that doesn't even wake her up. She doesn't even jump when you drop loud noise. I could shoot a deer inside my house and she just wouldn't.
That's wild.
Nothing. But when you walk through the house silently, then just all hell breaks loose.
Guys, if you'll give me 45 seconds, I gotta get another beer.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Bam, I'll be right back.
All right.
Did that movie with Vince Vaughn come out? The Delivery Man.
The Delivery.
Is that already out?
It may be. I didn't notice.
That's the one where
he's like a sperm donor.
Yeah, and he has like 500 kids.
Yeah, he's got a lot. He's got like 500 plus kids.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. I heard it was okay. Like,
did you? Okay.
It had like heart or something, but
I know Chris Pratt's in that. He's awesome.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So, I don't know. I maybe I'll check that out eventually. But there's a long list of movies that I will only watch with Mrs. Hooper. Like, that's the only way that they'll ever make it to my living room.
Right.
That's probably one of them. Like, it's basically a list of stuff that I could tolerate if I'm watching it with her.
Sure.
And The Delivery Man is part of that list.
Yeah.
So, I actually have one more movie to add. I forgot to put it on the Google Doc. But I'm fulfilling my promise that I teased last week. I also saw Don John.
Oh, yeah.
Michael, have you seen Don John?
No, I haven't.
My baddie, my work, my church, my family, my porn. You saw that? Y'all saw that trailer, right?
Yeah.
Not just...
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So...
I didn't know you were doing an impression at first. I thought you were just...
talking.
Yeah.
Why is he talking like that?
Why is he talking about his body?
I guess this all makes the theme... Well, no, it doesn't. It does kind of... Never mind. I was going to say the theme of all my movies this week seems to be, like, New Englander accents. But I don't know what state The Conjuring takes place in, and The Internship was in California or wherever Google is, so that doesn't apply here.
Seattle or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's even worse. All right, well, I don't know.
It's the West Coast.
Yeah. So, I saw Don John, and so it stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, also written and directed by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, put out by his
Okay.
yeah. This is the one where he's like a Jersey guy.
This is the one where he made a movie so he could have sex with Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. And this really just shows that if you try hard enough for things like that, they will come true. So, so get to writing, all you horny young bastards out there. There's actresses out there waiting to be paid by you to pretend to have sex with you. It's not even prostitution. It's worse.
Hey, take your top off.
Please. So the movie is basically just about this kind of, he's not even like a musclehead. He's just a Jersey guy who's actually like an old-fashioned gentleman, who's, he's in good shape, he's clean, he's got his shit together, he slams down lots of women. Not like he doesn't hit them, like he beds them. He slams them down into his bed. He's not physically abusive.
I figured as much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really dark movie. It's about domestic violence.
He's a gentleman, but he does beat up the women that he likes.
Yeah, afterwards he beats them and says, please don't call me. Don't call me or the police after this. So anyway, he, so yeah, it's basically, I guess you would say I read this somewhere, I wouldn't say this, but the movie's basically about a guy like that. Oh, but he does that, but he also, like, he just prefers, like, porn. Even as much as he gets laid, he still prefers just the porn above everything. And it's really, it's not so much about porn addiction at all. It's because the movie used to be called Don John's Addiction. And they changed it to Don John because Joseph Gordon-Levitt was afraid that it would focus too much on the issue of pornography rather than just the story itself, which is kind of about a guy who the whole reason he's even sleeps with this many women or looks at porn this much is because he seeks connection and intimacy in his life, and it's about his search for that. So he meets Scarlett Johansson, and she doesn't like him looking at the porn and stuff, and it's basically about how the character, there's character growth through that. I don't want to spoil it. It's a good film. I'm glad I watched it. I thought it'd be better, but I don't know in what way I thought it would be better. I don't know if I expected more Scarlett Johansson or funnier jokes or a more profound, storytelling. I don't know. I mean, it was good.
Let me ask you this: we all know Joseph Gordon-Levitt's acting chops, but how is his writing and directing?
I liked it. It's one of those movies where it has I don't want to say a clear style, but it doesn't look like oh, this is what this film would be presented as if just Joe Schmo directed it. It looked like he had a very clear way he wanted it to look and sound and be. So it's just I like how it's directed. It's just I don't know how to describe it. It's quick, it's snappy, it's paced really well. It's not slow. Okay. It's tight. It's like 90 minutes. It's a pretty short film. It's concise. And I don't know if that's just a young filmmaker thing. I don't know if it's a young, non-pretentious filmmaker thing to just give them the story. Don't waste their time, and it'll be good. So I don't know, but it seems to just be his aim to just tell a concise, good little story. And all the acting is really good. Tony Danza plays his dad, so it's fun to watch him just have anger issues and just yell at his son for the whole movie, basically, which is even funnier because they were in Angels in the Outfield together, and it's funny to see to go from that.
Oh, you just blew my mind.
I know. Yeah, when he was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think John John was one of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's first films he produced. If I remember correctly, there was a picture called Hesher that he produced. Did you guys see that one?
Did he produce Hesher?
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he helped produce that one.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he did have more involvement than just acting.
Yeah, and I
never saw it.
I remember watching Hesher and saying, "Wow, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is really he's on top of making these movies." Hesher was another very similar to Killer Joe. It was another black comedy. Definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it.
Okay. Awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so that's Don John.
Well, I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think he's cool.
It's one of those. It's especially like if you're a fan of his, then it's a must see. I'd say.
He seems like a down to earth dude. I don't know.
He seems like a regular guy.
Pretentious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I hang out with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh yeah. I want to have a beer with him and Matthew McConaughey at the same time.
Oh yeah, dude, that'd be a good time.
Yeah.
I got a movie. Did you guys talk about Ender's Game with Harrison Ford?
I have not seen it.
No, I haven't seen it either.
Oh,
but I'm interested.
Okay, that is definitely something you guys got to check out.
Okay.
I heard a lot of mixed reviews about Ender's Game, but it's a story of a young man who becomes a leader, who ends up. I don't want to give it away. Who ends up overcoming more than he thought he could with the encouragement of Harrison Ford and his family and other supporting characters. But it's definitely worth a watch. Ender's Game. It's beautiful. Awesome. It sounds great. Great performances all around, especially from children. Definitely worth a watch.
Great. Okay. I remember when that was coming out. I went to pick up the book. And so I went to the library, checked out the book. First time I've been to the library in probably like a decade.
Oh wow!
And so I opened this book, and I think they've aged the characters up in the movie because I think in the book the main character was like 6.
Yeah, in the movie it's like 12, 14, 15 or so.
And see, I feel like I'd like that a lot better because I couldn't finish the book because I just couldn't suspend my disbelief that a 6-year-old was capable of doing these great things.
Right.
Because I'm like, do you realize how young 6 is? Like, you can't, be a leader or think strategically when you're 6.
Yeah.
And,
you don't have the capacity to understand risk, reward, and consequences and things like that. Your brain's not nearly fully developed enough for that.
Yeah. Of course, I think they were trying to postulate that in the future things like development of children would be a little different. I don't know how the movie is with that, but I think the book kind of set that up that some children kind of developed, better than others.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but I got about maybe like halfway through the book before I just was like, I just can't believe it anymore. So I returned it, but I do still intend on seeing the movie.
Yeah.
Just because like it was interesting, and since they aged the characters up, I feel like it'd be more believable.
Speaking of age, Harrison Ford does a great job, but that man looks like shit.
I know. It's so sad.
He looks like shit, man.
It's true. Have you seen him in 42?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man. He looks so old. I'm like, oh, no. Indy.
Yeah,
Han,
right.
what? No.
42, more like 92.
Yeah.
I know, for real. And, dude, he's going to do... Evidently, his plan was to come back to do the Star Wars movies that they're doing, but only if they can go ahead and greenlight 2 Indiana Jones movies.
No.
Because he wants to finish another trilogy.
No!
That was his stipulation. He was like, I will do Star Wars, but I have to do 2 more indie movies.
No!
Yes.
Absolutely not.
It's happening. I guarantee it.
No.
2 more. Shia Labeouf will have no part of it, I'm sure, but they're going to do it.
Can we talk about Shia LaBeouf? Please, can we please talk about Shia LaBeouf?
We can for like... We can
Yes.
for like 2 more
We
minutes.
always have time to talk about Shia LaBeouf on the
then I have
podcast.
to leave.
He put a paper bag over his head, and he said, I am not famous anymore. So after he did that, he then rented out space in a gallery
Oh, man, I know.
in California, where he cried in front of one-on-one patrons of the gallery. They sat down at a table across from Shia LaBeouf, and he just sat there and cried.
Yep.
And
This is true.
this is so true. This is. So
I've seen video of it. You can find it.
Are you serious?
You can. Go to YouTube. You can find where people bring in, like, cameras, and they'll talk to him, because I think his goal is, like, or what he does is he just sits on the other end of the table. He has earplugs in, so, you know, he can't hear you or whatever. He can probably hear you, but whatever. So he has these earplugs in, and it just sits there and cries as you talk to him. And yeah, you can find footage of it on YouTube. It's crazy. Like, I think he's legitimately, like, insane now.
Shia, what are you crying about? You became a millionaire overnight. Michael Bay made you famous and rich.
Yep.
What is your problem? We
think,
know you did Even Stevens. We know you did Holes. But, buddy, that is in your past. We're not judging you anymore for that. What is this man doing?
Dude, I would go in there and I would just take a picture of Louis Stevens. I'd be like, you remember this kid? That's who you were, Shia.
Did he really cry?
A rising young comedy star.
I would just bring him in. I'd just bring him in and show him like the Rotten Tomatoes scores for Transformers movies. I think that's what made him cry in the first place. It's like,
Probably.
I mean, have we Google searched him since this? Has there been any word from Shia since his
I don't think so.
latest publicity stunt?
I don't know. I think he has a Twitter page.
sorry.
Let me see if I can Google it. We're gonna find.
I'm looking up his Twitter now.
Okay, cool.
His last tweet was on February 17th. And he just posted a photo,
Of himself crying.
of the sky with words in the sky that says, start creating.
I'm looking at it right now.
Start creating shit. My personal motto.
February 11th. Hashtag I am sorry. February February 9th. I am not famous anymore. And it says that every day.
Every day,
God.
going back to January 13th.
Oh my gosh.
What is...
It's like a solid month of I'm not famous anymore.
Oh my
Shia.
God.
Can we write him a letter? Does anybody have a Twitter account?
Yes. The HooperCast has a
I
Twitter
do,
account.
actually, yeah.
The HooperCast, can we invite him to be on the HooperCast next week?
Oh,
Yes.
please.
Let's do it.
Can we please
Will you
send
guys-
him an invitation?
Please.
You know what's weird? He might actually say yes.
Yeah, I know. We got to talk to him.
Yeah.
I do not
You know he
have
gets
a
like
Twitter
probably
account.
80 of these a day, right?
Oh, I'm sure he does.
I bet he gets just, you're fucking crazy, you stupid fucking idiot. posts. All he has to do is see one that says, "You know what? You're brilliant. They don't understand you. We want you to come on our show so you can tell your side." He'll be like, "Damn,
send that.
Do it.
I'll just send him that audio. I'll just put a link to this episode on his Twitter."
Absolutely. No,
Love the HooperCast.
you know what? A lot of people give Shia LaBeouf a lot of shit for Eagle Eye, but I'm telling you, Eagle Eye is one of the best bitches. I can't even say it. I can't even say it. Watching that movie is like falling down a flight of stairs. It just doesn't end.
That's so true.
Oh, man.
All right, Michael, we will do this again.
We will.
Absolutely. I have a great time with you guys.
All right, well, everybody.
It's fun to have a third voice.
Yes. Michael, thank you for coming on.
Oh, of course.
Listeners, thank you for listening. Tell your friends about the podcast. It is you can listen to it at hoopercastpod.tumblr.com. There's also, we embed the link to the YouTube page. Tell your friends, spread the word. There is now a PayPal donate button on the Tumblr page if you want to leave us a virtual tip. And it's just going to go to, stuff like new mics and other things that we can do to make the show better. You can find us on... Huh? Yeah, beer money. Because that does make the show better.
That gluten-free beer ain't cheap, guys.
Yeah, I need to buy more of this. So, anyway, you can also find us on Twitter at just at HooperCast. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yay.
Woo! All right. Goodbye, everyone.